What's up, everybody? My name is Rob. Welcome back to Rule of Two Review, where today I'm going to give my report on the first year of the Xbox One. Alrighty, so 2 systems down and 1 system to go. This is the day where I finally celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the Xbox One, which was released 1 year ago yesterday, November 21st, 2013. Today, of course, is November 22nd, 2014, and the Xbox has had its full year on the market. You will have already seen my video earlier today where I talked about the fact that the Xbox, just in the last week, managed to surpass, according to numbers on VG Charts, the Wii U for the second place current generation console on the market. So it took them basically exactly 1 year to be able to do so. So that is really excellent. Congratulations on Microsoft for the Xbox One and that success. And so when I now start trying to look back on this first year of the Xbox One, man, what a doozy. Because I'm sure all of us are familiar with the crazy, turbulent ride that Microsoft and the Xbox One has taken from its inception to its reveal throughout the launch and the entire first year. There has been a hell of a lot of controversy and a hell of a lot of hubbub and all sorts of buzz about this and that, good things, bad things. Lots of debates about the DRM and everything that the system was first announced as and how it reversed that stuff, which was an unprecedented move, all the way up to the reveal and all that good stuff. You know, I mean, it's been an insane ride for the Xbox One. Now, I do have to say that this crazy ride does culminate in me finally deciding to purchase one just a few weeks ago. I picked it up after the limited time sale was initiated, where it was dropped by $50 to a $450 and a $350 version of the system. And that was what finally convinced me to say, hey, it's time to pick this up. Not to mention a couple of games. It was the last of the 3 systems that I did pick up. I picked up the Wii U on launch day, the PS4 for the Destiny bundle in September, and then I picked up the Sunset Overdrive bundle for the Xbox One, just like I said, about a couple of weeks, actually almost a month ago, maybe I guess about 3 weeks ago, I finally picked one up. So it's interesting because it was for so long the least compelling of the 3 systems. I finally decided it was time for me to plunk down and pick one up. And as I've mentioned a few times on Rule of Two Review, for anyone who has seen my previous videos, it has become one of my favorite systems. It's actually my second favorite system behind the Wii U. I am enjoying it more than the PlayStation 4. And considering that last gen, during the 7th gen, the PlayStation 3 was my favorite system, it's pretty interesting to see those two specifically swap places. So, you know, the Xbox One and Microsoft have done a really good job turning around a lot of the negative controversy surrounding the system and make it a really interesting, compelling system to own. And I'm really glad that I ended up picking one up. However, with all that aside, there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to grading and, you know, ultimately judging the first year of the system. Not thinking about the future yet, but just looking back at what happened the first year of the console's life. So, of course, we know, leading back to the reveal and the controversy, Microsoft was initially doing some of the most unheard of, unprecedented, reprehensible moves anyone has ever decided to make with a console. The way it was this DRM machine, always online, you can't trade games, you can't return games and trade them in used. I mean, there was a huge potential for a lot of problems. Not to mention the fact that at its initial reveal, granted, don't worry, I'm not going to be grading the reveal here, but I'm just kind of recapping some of the history. At the reveal, they barely talked about games. They had a bunch of celebrities in a montage video, and then they just showed all this TV and internet bullshit that is fine as a supplemental experience for your console, but not what you should focus on when revealing the system. So everyone was really nervous about the Xbox One, myself included. I was like, what is this? I mean, it's cool you can look at the internet and watch movies on your console, but I don't really care. What are the games you're going to be releasing? And the fact that reveal wasn't game-centric and focused on the kind of things that were also negative, such as DRM, meant that everyone was really worried about what the Xbox One was going to be doing. Coming off of the most gamer-friendly system, you know, the previous gen with the Xbox 360, it's like, what a complete turnaround to the wrong direction. What are you guys doing? So, in the time between the reveal and the launch of the console last November, they did end up doing what no one has ever done before, and they completely reached out to the gamer and said, hey, we are reversing all of these policies and all of these things that we have learned you really don't like. You can now play the system offline. You can now experience used games and trade games and trade them with your friends and trade them into stores for used credit. You can do all of these things that previously we weren't going to allow you to do. And that was great. That was a huge thing. And I think that's why the system still did have a pretty strong launch last November. Maybe not as strong as it would have been. And also decisions that led to a stronger launch for the PlayStation 4 than they probably were expecting. But still, they were good things to do nonetheless. And it made a lot of people happy. Some people were still angry about it and were like, now I don't really trust Microsoft because of the flip-flopping. And I get that. But ultimately, it was the right and smart decision to make. And so now when we come into the actual launch of the Xbox One, let's start talking about what it did right. It had a couple games. It had some exclusive launch games. And that's more than can be said for some of the competition, sadly. It launched with Dead Rising 3, which I've yet to play, but I really want to. I hear it's okay. Rise, Son of Rome, which I hear is not very good, but I know looks very pretty. The Killer Instinct reboot, which I am dying to play because I grew up with Killer Instinct, so that's a great one. And I'm now completely forgetting the other one because I always do this in brain fart when I actually make a video. But there was another, right? Or did Forza come out within the first couple of... I think Forza was pretty soon. Maybe launch or maybe a little bit after. So it was a new Forza game. So, that's a wide variety of games. And, some of those are pretty good games. Forza, which I'm not interested in, but I know people like it. Forza, Killer Instinct, and Dead Rising 3 were all supposed to be pretty okay games. So... they set a precedence with some exclusive content. Nothing. I guess Forza's first party. Everything else was some third party stuff. So that's cool too. I guess maybe Rare. Was it Rare that worked on Killer Instinct? I don't even know now. But Killer Instinct, I'm sure, is probably exclusive to Microsoft too. So there's some exclusive games, some other multi-platform stuff, some first party, some third party. It's a pretty good wide variety. Nothing really great. Nothing that stood out as this amazing must-have killer app launch title. But again, that's rare for most systems. With the rare exception, like Zelda Twilight Princess for the Wii and stuff like that, you're not going to get many very high-profile smash hit killer app games at launch. So. I think that that's completely okay, and it's nice that they came out with a couple of good games. The problem that they started running into was also what Sony ended up running into, which is also what Nintendo ran into the year before, which was then a huge drought after that initial launch of a couple of games. There was not a lot of exclusive content for a while. Eventually, something did come along, but for a period, there was nothing to play, and people were still mired in the fact that they didn't know if they could trust Microsoft because of the DRM policies, because of the Kinect. Let me talk about the Kinect for a minute. The Kinect is something that, while they're, so Microsoft really seems to have a huge belief in the Kinect, or at least they did at the time before Don Matrick left and before Phil Spencer took over. They were all about the Kinect. It was this extra $100 that was making the system very expensive. So the price point was a huge problem. Its two competing systems, the PS4 and Wii U, were both $100 and $200 cheaper, respectively. So that made the Xbox One far less appealing, and that was really, really unfortunate. And we had the Kinect, which no one really liked or wanted or believed in, and, say what you will about it, for whether you like it or not, most people, and I mean a startling and overwhelming majority, do not like the Kinect, or at least are not interested in it and could not care less about it. The Xbox One I purchased did not come with the Kinect, and that helped me decide. So the higher price and the inclusion of a Kinect that people didn't believe in, and a buggy UI right out of the gate. That was another thing, is that the UI was very buggy for a while, I know, until the first major patch and update rolled out. So these things were holding the system back. They were making it less compelling for people. It wasn't selling as well as its competition. At this point, the Wii U was still struggling. So the Wii U really wasn't selling, even as well as the Xbox One, but the PS4 was trouncing the Xbox One early on. And I think that's too bad, but it is what it is. And those were the things that were really holding it back. And the fact that people had this concern that, hey, Microsoft had these policies just recently that we hated and didn't believe in, and they only just recently turned them away. How do we know they're not going to bring them back? I don't trust Microsoft. I don't trust the Xbox One. And I don't want to fucking connect and a camera in my home if it's supposed to be always online. Pretty legitimate concerns that I have to, when I set myself back, 7-8 months, a year, I remember feeling the same thing. So I completely remember those being very valid at that time. So when it comes to the games, let's go back to something good for a minute. What eventually happened, Titanfall came out in March, I think, either February or March. I'm pretty sure it was March. And say what you will about the success of that or not, it was a big deal. Titanfall was a big deal. It reviewed very well, and some people feel underwhelmed by it, but for the most part, people seem to really have enjoyed it. I cannot wait to finally just go buy that stupid game and play it. And while it may not have sold as well as it could have on the Xbox One because they released it on PS3 and Xbox 360, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately for the Xbox One, maybe not for gamers, but for the Xbox One, it was unfortunate. It didn't maybe do as much of a boost to the system as it could have done because people could buy it at other places, including the 80 million install base Xbox 360. Duh. But hey, it released, one of the best versions released on the 360. The Xbox One, and it certainly did give a boost to the sales. And it was a huge exclusive, at least as far as Sony and Nintendo not having access to it, it was exclusive on the console front to the Xbox One, to Microsoft platforms, and that was still huge. That was a good thing. It was a high-profile, very good title that was exclusive to the Xbox One mostly, and that counts because, as I've said many times, exclusive content, exclusive titles carry the most weight when it comes to defining a system's library and its value. So the next major thing that happened, and this is where I can kind of wrap up my report here and kind of give my grade, is a couple months later, right up before E3, they then announced, this was brilliant. At this time, Don Matrick had left, Phil Spencer took over. I am a huge fan of Phil Spencer, great guy. And you know what he announced? A price drop. And beyond the price drop, a cheaper system without the Kinect. So boom, all of a sudden, everything that people didn't like about the Xbox One was changing. They were making the system cheaper and they were removing the extra peripheral that no one really wanted or cared about. Phil Spencer was a guy who saw the problems and what was some of the things that was holding the system back from being a stronger competitor to its competition. And, removing the Kinect and changing that price was huge, instrumental, especially going into E3 where you need as much positive hype and buzz as you can possibly muster up. They did an amazing thing, and they changed what most people had a problem with. Then they had a really solid E3 press conference. All they did was show games. It was Phil Spencer was like, hey, you want a game? Boom, here's a fucking game. You want another game? Boom, here's 2 more fucking games. And some of them were exclusive, maybe not as many as there should have been, but they had exclusive content. They showed third-party multi-platform content like Assassin's Creed Unity, which at the time no one knew was going to end up sucking. So they had a great press conference. They lowered the price. They removed the Kinect, all in the first half of the year. Really, really strong, bold moves that I think absolutely eluded and helped Microsoft reach this recent goal of finally becoming the number 2 console on the market. So those were great, wonderful things. Fast forward through another drought of games, unfortunately. I can't think of anything. I should have looked up the library and the release list for 2014. I'm trying to think of any exclusive games that released over the summer, which all systems, to be fair, had a pretty strong drought. I thought maybe there was one, but maybe not. Yeah, they had no games for a while after E3 in June, leading up to recently in the holidays, when eventually Sunset Overdrive came out. And leading into Sunset Overdrive, what did we find out a week before then in the month of October? That there was going to be a temporary price drop again. 2 price drops in the same year, which made dropping the bottom end system another $50 to $349. That means that the Xbox One at the beginning of 2014 was $499, $500 flat rate. That was it. Then throughout the course of the year, with 2 different SKUs, the lowest price you could pay for an Xbox One was $350, which is exactly what I paid. So I ended up saving, $150 to buy my Xbox One compared to if I had bought it at launch or even almost a year prior. And to be fair, I think that the system maybe didn't have to do that second price drop, but the fact that they did was amazing. It was extremely aggressive, very smart, helped me pick up an Xbox One, and obviously a lot of other people, because like I said, all of a sudden the system skyrocketed in sales the last few weeks, and it out of nowhere overtook its number 2 competitor, which had a 1 or 1.5 million lead, a couple months prior. So that was an amazing thing. And I certainly, when looking at and analyzing this first year of the Xbox One, have to recognize that that's huge for the sales. And the fact that Master Chief Collection and Sunset Overdrive came out, it's only 2 exclusive games, but they're 2 very, very big ones. I don't know if Ori and the Blind Forest comes out before the end of the year, and I am so hyped for that game. I actually feel like a complete ass for not knowing if that game comes out before the end of the year. But if it does, that'll be a third high-profile, well, kind of high-profile, it's an indie game, but a third really quality-looking exclusive for the system for the holidays. So they've got third-party stuff, they've got Call of Duty, they've got Assassin's Creed, all these other things, and they've also got some exclusive content. With Halo is a huge one. Sunset Overdrive is an amazing game. So they had some pretty good exclusive games. They had major strides in sales, and they had 2 price drops throughout the year. There's no denying that despite the issues, the Xbox One made some pretty strong, bold moves this year. And so, in wrapping up and trying to grade the Xbox One's first year on the market, I would like to include some of the things happening beforehand with the reveal, but I can't do it. I'm going from November 21st to November 21st. It is the first 1 year on the market. Started off okay, had a really rough period for a while, but with a couple of good games and 2 freaking price drops and being able to overtake its competitor, I have to say, oh man, I think that I'm going to have to go. I had 2 different scores bouncing around in my head, but I'm going to go ahead and say that in the first year, I'm going to give it a B+. I think that is a very fair, accurate assessment. That is a really good score. That is a solid system. 2 price drops and a couple of good games. Maybe not enough exclusives. I think the fact that there weren't enough exclusives and it took so long for them to start to turn the sales around, that kind of wants me to hold back. I was thinking an A- because of the 2 price drops, but it took a while to be able to do that. And the price drops kind of have a backhanded negative effect because they had to do that to make up ground they were losing. It was kind of the thing where it's like, we have to start losing money to be able to sell this system to people. And so that is an unfortunate thing. But make no mistake, as far as the gamer goes, we win when that happens. So that keeps their score high. B+, it puts them in second place grading as far as everything, as far as the 3 systems are concerned. Like I said, whether you're a B-, a B+, or an A-, that all 3 of those grades, just for me and my perspective and how I look at those grades, those are good things. All 3 systems are doing great things. Xbox One made huge strides in this second year. Whether or not they can keep the momentum up leading into next year, where the only game we know they have coming out is Halo 5, which is a huge one I can't wait for, but I'm pretty sure that's the only one we know of that's exclusive. Yes, they're going to get Batman Arkham Knight, which looks really great. Yes, they're going to get next year's Call of Duty, and they're going to get Madden, and they're going to get all these other things, and those are really great games, but what are the exclusives? Right now, all we know of is Halo 5, so we'll have to see what happens with next year's E3. Maybe we get a couple other really big reveals. We know they're working on Gears of War. When will that come out? Who knows? There's no announcement or name or trailer, so that kind of doesn't really count for now. Right now, Halo 5 is it. So going into the second year, it's a matter of where the momentum goes. They don't have a whole heck of a lot of it right now, but they did amazing things. So congratulations, Microsoft and the Xbox One, for taking the number 2 spot, even though I think it's probably going to be temporary. Still, you did an amazing thing. 2 price drops. Happy to pick one up. Love the system. Good on you guys. That's my thoughts. Those are my grade. What do you guys think? Is it kind of accurate? Do you think I'm completely fucking nuts? You tell me. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to Rule of 2 Review. Like and share this video because it helps me and this video out quite a bit. Thanks for tuning in. I will catch you guys on the next video.